Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. This is Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Central Texas Life, and it is my joy to introduce you to Stephanie and Jacob Pulaski. Had a chance to visit with them a few weeks ago about their journey and what they're planning to do, which is pretty amazing. You're going to take your family and move to Israel.
Yes, we are.
With all that's going on?
It's
You must feel
with
called to
everything
do
that's
this.
we absolutely feel called to do it. And the peace that comes with the calling is the only reason we'd be able to do it.
Right, right.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to get into, what brought you to this point. You serve with the Freedom Fighters Foundation.
Yes.
This is a work that ministers to veterans and their spouses who are dealing with PTSD.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you have a personal experience with that too. Can we talk about that?
Yes, I did 5 years in the Marine Corps. And then 18 days after we got married, deployed to Iraq and came back affected by PTSD and traumatic brain injury. And that changed our first 14 years of marriage. And so whenever the Lord came and met me in December of 21, that's when I realized what all has to change. And in that place, the Freedom Fighter Foundation was just being born. And so me and the national director, Shade Bounds, who's one of the co-founders, that's when I came on board and said, I don't need a job. I'm just looking for work. And then 2.5 years later, I'm still there and the national director of training here in the U.S. And now we're branching out to Israel and doing the same thing. We see the same opportunity. And in that place,
Israeli soldiers.
Yeah, IDF soldiers. And then also their reserves and veterans that are no longer serving that were in the Second Lebanon War and stuff like that. So,
yeah. As a spouse, let's go back to those years,
Yes.
14 of them, you say, when he came back a changed person. I mean, you'd only been married not even a few weeks.
Yeah. It was
And he's a different person.
It was a different person. It was very difficult because you marry the person you fell in love with. They go to war and come back, and you're learning a new person, and you're learning yourself as well. A new bride and new wife, all the new roles, and then you come back to almost a stranger, and you hold on to the person that they were, hoping that PTSD and this TBI will just snap out of it. But you don't just snap out of trauma. That healing has to take place. And the Lord was very gracious to me to show me along the 14 years of what Jacob would be with the Lord. Just hang in there and pray. And despite what we were going through, the Lord still maintained us and kept us during those 14 years. And we just held on to him.
I bet there had to have been times like, I'm just going to cash out. I mean, I'm just really, and you can see why there are a lot of marriages that dissolve.
Oh, yes.
Because
definitely.
PTSD.
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And I would encourage that sometimes.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
And I was very manipulative and very emotionally abusive towards her. And then in that place of, you don't want to be that person. And so, of course, there's, even more traumatic remorse afterwards. And then you're just like, nobody deserves to be here. You should go. I should go. Those type things.
Yeah. Right. But you've, felt called to the relationship too. I mean,
Right. I knew the Lord had given him to me, and I knew, being a military family myself, I know the weight that is with being in the service and what military families go through day in and day out. So I knew it was going to be a bit, but he served our country and, protected us. And I don't know half of what he did, for national security. They have to do their job, but to fight a war and keep the liberties that were given here sustained, and for us and our children and children's children, nobody wants war, but it happens. And so I held on to the promise that the Lord would heal him, and healed us, and he did. I was very faithful.
So you were not a strong Christian prior
No,
to that, is
no.
what you're saying.
Mhm.
So how did that come about?
I believed in Jesus.
Mhm.
I just did not see how I was God's people. I would hear it from the pulpit, we're
Uh-huh.
God's people. And it's like, I'm not an Israelite and I don't feel
Mhm.
very fulfilled. And
Mhm.
everything that even before the military, the trauma in my life and who I was and just how I knew I thought and what I felt in my heart, figured, okay, God, that's probably a good decision because I don't feel like a very good person. And I made my peace in that place of like, I know where I'm not going and I can trust that you probably know what's best. I just didn't realize the gravity of that lie that I was believing.
Mhm.
And so in December of 21, I really, Stephanie's dad had just passed away and he was one of my best friends. And she asked me a question one day of, when I'm done being mad about God not healing my dad and him still being here, am I going to have to apologize? And everything inside of me wanted to be like, are you kidding me? No. And that's not what came out of my mouth. What came out of my mouth was, yes, but when that time comes, you're going to want to. And I knew that wasn't my thought. I knew that's not what I was wanting to say. It's not where my heart was.
That's kind of weird.
It was weird. It
The
was
Lord
really
moved through him
strange.
to talk to me because
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
not
yeah.
listening.
I think when you told me this story before, the jawbone of an ass story,
Yeah.
somebody could just take anything and
Yeah.
Make
it
it speak
You're-
for me.
And then I felt manipulated.
oh, really? Yeah.
I felt very manipulated by God because I knew what I was thinking and what I wanted
And
to
that
say.
was not what's it.
That was not what I was going to say. And so
Mhm.
I got very mad.
Uh-huh.
It to a degree of, I don't think I've ever been that mad. And in that place, I went back out to my motorcycle shop and I was yelling and cussing at God. But what I was really doing was praying from my heart because I wanted my wife to be helped. And I didn't understand how if she's your daughter and you love her and I could see the real relationship they had. Why are you not here with her, helping her through this?
Mhm.
And he showed up and helped her through it by changing me. And it was a miraculous moment where he came and met me in the shop and walked me through how I was his people. I opened the Bible, and it wasn't one of those like open the Bible and like point and go, okay,
point to
this
a
is my
scripture. Yeah, this
verse.
is,
This is
revelation here.
I opened the Bible and could feel him talking to me of like, okay, keep turning the pages, keep turning to the left, turn to the left, a little less, a little, okay, the next page, and then up, move up, okay, right here. And it literally said, and they will be my people and I will be their God. And it was Ezekiel 36 and the last few words of verse 28. And then he was like, now move up. And I read 26 and 27. It says, I will give you a new heart and put a spirit in you. I will take out your stony, stubborn heart and give you a tender, responsive heart and put my spirit in you, and you will obey my regulations and follow my decrees. And he was like, this is what I'm walking you through.
Yeah.
And from that point on, it was a point, I didn't know Galatians 2:20 at the time. I didn't know that I could see myself crucified with Christ and live a new life. But that's what I just made that connection of, I'm done. I'm yours. If
Yeah.
I'm your people, and I still get emotional about
Yeah.
it because he came and kept his promise to her of
Yeah.
who I could be. And then now I get to be a son.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to show
To
everybody.
everyone.
All the lies of trauma
Yeah.
and what you've gone through doesn't mean anything about who you can be and what he can do for you.
Yeah.
A new creation, and that's what
Right.
has happened. So how did Israel come into the picture?
Oh, that's a great question.
Do you want to share? You wanna
Sure, I'll share. So, it was in September of this year,
Uh-huh.
and the Lord woke me up early in the morning, and He was like, "Pray for Israel." And I, being such a great daughter of the Lord, I was like, "Why?" As every kid does, why? And I was like, "Why? Of all the countries to pray for, would not think that country." So I was like, "Okay, I will pray for Israel." We don't know anyone there, no friends, we don't think we're of any descent.
You don't have
So
any connection,
no
really.
We are
connections to
not
this.
Jewish.
We're not
Not
Jewish.
Jewish,
So
yeah.
yeah. And so I was like, okay, Lord, protect them, watch over them, help them to know who they are in you. That's all I
You
could
didn't
really
know
get
what
out.
else to
What
yeah,
else to pray?
pray.
And then this was continuous. And so kind of the same things of, watch over them, protect them, and let them know who they are in you, which I thought was kind of interesting because if anybody knows the Lord, it would be Israelis. The people of
Right.
Israel would know.
Right.
All the Old Testament is
Yeah,
with
his
them.
chosen people. Yeah, right.
Yes. And so, and then October 7th happened. I
Right.
woke up to that news and was just heartbroken and devastated for them of what they were going through. And, we knew that it was a different time for Israel now. And then, of course, my prayers changed way more direct. And I was, since we are chaplains and we're trauma certified, I was very passionately yelling at Jacob that night that we need to be there. We should be there. Why are we not there? And Jacob informed me they're in war. We can't just go. So if we're not going, we're sending something. What can we send? So my heart was already to be there with them in this state of trauma. And it was just, I was so appreciative that the Lord had me wake up to this country and people, not just Jews or Messianic Jews or Arabs, the country itself. To love this country before they were hit with trauma. So I don't love them out of pity or I'm so sorry. It was I love you because the Father woke me up for my heart to be turned to you and to love you and to show you, like Jacob was saying, your true identity in Him. And trauma has a very sneaky way of covering up who you really are. You can get in a very quick victimized mindset of I'm wounded, I'm hurt, I'm this, I'm that, and you don't have to. That can happen to anyone. We see it in the States with veterans all the time and their spouses. I have trauma and I carry this. This is who I am. I'm traumatized. And so with the Lord giving us the 14 years and healing us, you may have walked through trauma, but you don't have to continue to live that way. You are still God's daughter, God's son, and He has a calling for you and a life for you above this victim mindset. And so if we'll turn that over to Him and allow Him to heal us wholly, with the W as we say, wholly, all the
Holy.
way, He can really work through you. And so my heart wants to be there for that whole country because it affects everyone, not just one type of demographic, of course. So
And there are Christians there
are
in
Christians.
Israel. So
Right.
you had an opportunity to go there. Tell me
Yes.
about
Yes.
your actual visit.
So we went in January. That was the first time that we went, and we met with different organizations and ministries and individuals and congregations and stuff. And the kind of funny, interesting piece is, and until you get there, nobody trusts you. They're a very closed community. And so we're trying to find out how are we going to get connections made, and everybody's like, yeah, show up and then we'll maybe talk. So we're kind of going there with we had 3 meetings set up over a course
Where?
of
In what city? Where were you?
They were from Jerusalem, Haifa, and then we had one in Tiberias, which is right on the Sea of Galilee. And that's it for a week. And we're just like, Lord, we're going and trusting you. And we met a family that has lived there for the last almost 10 years. And they're well connected, but it was the same thing. Bring them here and then we'll see what happens. And from those 3 meetings, it turned into every day from about 9 o'clock in the morning to 11:30 to midnight at night.
Wow.
We were meeting with people. Doors were just flung open in supernatural proportions. And so we made a lot of connections, but we weren't able to do a whole lot of what we do here
As far
because
as
it was
ministering
just
to
greasing
people.
the wheels.
Right.
And so then we went back in March. One of the congregations asked us to do a 3-day conference with them in equipping their leaders. A segment was equipping their leaders in what we do. How do we talk about trauma, people that are going through trauma, especially when it does become marital and there is conflict in the home. Not everybody's comfortable talking about that.
Right.
And so that's kind of a unique part of our testimony of, I have no problem saying now that I was emotionally abusive to my wife because I'm not anymore.
Right.
I'm truly walking in healing and whole from that place. And so we can talk about it freely. And that's what redemption brings. And so just that simple thing, and it's not real simple, but that part of the conversation shocks people sometimes of like, how are you okay with portraying yourself in that way? It is that new creation aspect. That's not who I am anymore. And that is, one, new to a lot of churches here in the United States, and it's also new to churches in Israel. And so we had that 3-day conference, and then we had a period of one-on-one ministry during that time, and then meeting with new pastors. And the community is very small there. So as soon as you talk to one person, like you can go
Everybody
from
knows.
Haifa to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, you
Yeah.
met with so-and-so. And
Yeah,
you're like,
all came
yeah,
to
that
town.
was 45 minutes ago. The drive here, and now everybody knows. And so now it's, there's multiple opportunities of conferences to hold in different areas and with other organizations.
So you'll continue to do training.
We'll continue to do leadership development and training. And that's our real passion is discipleship, because it can't just be me forever.
Right.
It's equipping other leaders to do the same thing, because each testimony, it impacts differently. And so my testimony will only reach these people, but if we can equip others, then there's a greater amount. It's multiplication instead of addition.
Yeah.
And so that's our greatest desire, is over there, not planting a flag and saying this is us and we're here to do this, but just meeting with people and equipping leaders to do the same thing, to show them the power of their testimony. And that's revelation. We will defeat the enemy by the blood of the Lamb, the word of our testimony, and loving not our own life unto death. And that's what we want to instill there.
Now, tell me about your family. You have children.
Yes, we have an 8-year-old, Isabella, and then we have almost 3-year-old Madeline. And Isabella is her heart is for Israel.
Really?
She's never been. We don't have any family, like we were telling you, but when Jacob was going the first time, she wanted to see what did it look like. So we were looking at pictures on Google, and Dad's going there, and very excited. And she learned the Shabbat Shalom song that you sing for Shabbat, and we are Texan, not Jewish at all, so it sounds very interesting when we sing Shabbat Shalom. And so she was very excited for him to go. And then when she found out we were both going, she goes, "Okay, I know the time will go fast, but when do I get to go?"
She's already looking forward to that.
Looking forward to going to. She has a very big heart. She's very empathetic, and she just loves the Lord and loves people, and she wants to go. So we haven't told her about, us trying to get there, because then it would be an everyday conversation.
Right. You might as well delay that if you
delay
can.
it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then our almost 3-year-old, she's just full of life and will, be along for the ride for sure. But
and they're homeschooled.
They are homeschooled.
So
yes.
Pretty portable as far as that goes.
Just go.
Yeah.
And so we're very thankful how the Lord, we just started saying yes to him instead of why or how. It was just yes. And he made transition in our careers and to full-time ministry now, to homeschooling our daughters, and now to moving us to Israel, and the longevity there. We're not putting a time stamp on anything because it's all his, and we're vessels, and we are there without any
You're
sort.
not going through a missionary organization, or
Yeah, it's just
you know,
our
it's
family
just
going.
you're just
Just going to show no prejudice, and like Jacob said, no flag planting. It's just to really show the love of the Lord and what he can do for all if you'll let him.
Yeah, it's such a marked contrast, how he's working in your lives, and with this move and the call that he's placed on you when you turn on the news and you see what's happening on college campuses,
Yes.
and how blatant and open
Yeah.
the hatred for Jews is. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going through some of that with people we're friends with that
Really?
don't agree with our standpoint, and you know, and the biggest thing, and you do run into some of that in Israel. There is prejudice.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily towards Arabs, it's towards us. You know, Jews do not like Christians coming over and trying to help them.
Yeah.
And that's where it really is very humbling, because you know that when somebody is reached, that you really don't have anything to do with it.
That's right.
You're really just showing
Mm-hmm.
an aptitude for his attributes.
Yeah.
And that he is using that to reach them. And it's the same here. You know, there was no way for anybody to reach me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And so nobody can take credit for that.
Yeah.
And when we can't do that, then he truly gets all the glory.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing that we get to see unfold.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really the humbling piece of that is when somebody that I do care about, friends here, that really, really are bitter towards you. I'm not affected by that either, because I know you just need the same love that I need.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to show to you in my grace and mercy that he has instilled in me.
Yeah. Yeah. Your immediate family, though, parents, they're
Yeah.
what are they saying?
Grandparents will miss the grandkids.
I
But
know they will.
They care more about the grandkids than me.
I gotta say, you guys
You
go
know,
on.
I'll keep the grandkids. But both sides are very loving and believers themselves, so they know that it's not anything of us. It's definitely the Lord's calling, especially to take your two small children over to a war zone. Yes, thank you. And so they know it's of the Lord, but they've already discussed, we'll be buying plane tickets, you know, and they will be there
They're
to love
planning to
on.
go,
They're
yeah.
planning to go and still have community there. But, you know, the Lord protects his people.
Yeah.
And if he's calling us, then we know to, you know, what end. We'll say yes wherever he has us to go. And so we cannot tell the Lord no. So we know if he's calling us, the answer is yes.
Tell me about the 100 Club.
So when we were praying, after I was persuaded that this was something we were supposed to do, you know, the first thing the Lord told us, actually even before September, was you need a place for something to land. And so we started our own 501c3, the Few Ministries, in that place. And then after we filed the paperwork, it was just kind of like, now what, God? And there, nothing. I was like, oh, okay. So this is it.
That's in place, though.
Yeah,
It
was in
there.
place. And so then after the first trip to Israel, we came back, and that's when I kind of caught the vision of what the Lord was doing in Stephanie and what he was orchestrating. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. And that's when he said, okay, now we need to expand this. You need a website and a logo and all of these things. And so in praying in that place, the Lord put on our hearts 100 people at $100, which is $10,000 a month.
Mhm.
For a family of 4 to live there and do ministry, it's about $7,000 a month. And then there's no Veterans Administration there. So a husband or wife that needs a break from work for marital or family or mental time of rehabilitation, they would have to go without.
Right.
Unless their job obviously would give them paid time off and stuff like that. So we believe the other $3,000 is something we can sow into families that are needing to go and have ministerial time or just time of decompression. So we can sow into them, because a lot of what happens with Israel, people go and they wind up taking more than they're giving to the state of Israel. So we want to go and do the opposite.
Right.
And then that 100 for 100, that $10,000 a month is something that, as we equip leaders, that money stays with that ministry. And so it's not something that's going to follow us to wherever God calls us next, but we want it to be what sustains that ministry there for as long as it needs to. And we will continue to draw people to that as people, inevitably go and take their money elsewhere. How do we keep this sustained over time? And so that's where the 100 Club, I don't know if that's what we're going to call it whenever it leaves there, but it's like, oh, it's kind of cool. So,
So how would people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your ministry there?
Our website is thefew937.com. And at the bottom of the page on the right-hand side is a contact form. And then on the left-hand side, if the Lord leads them to give, there's a give form.
Yeah, very good. So it's all, as you say, it's all in place.
It's all in
place.
And
so your timetable, you're looking at actually the move.
We're it feels like the Lord is moving us towards September. Everybody that is wanting us to come back and do something new, it's like everybody's like, come back in September, come back in September, come back.
That's what you're hearing.
And that's what we were feeling before we went in March. It was just our own, what we've given yes to with other organizations and stuff throughout the summer is like, I feel like we'll come back, take a few 3 weeks in August to get prepared, and we can be gone in September. And then we went and landed in Israel for 2 weeks, and everybody was like, September. We're like, okay.
So that's confirmation.
So we're praying in that direction.
Yeah. Well, I'm anxious to hear more as we get closer to that time. I like to end these visits with a little questionnaire similar to the one the late, great James Lipton would do on Inside the Actor Studio. So we'll kind of ping pong between the two of you. There's just, what's your favorite word? I'll start with you, Stephanie. Do you have a favorite word?
I have a made up word that I make with our children. We call it Wapachui. So when I pick them up and put them in the car and they're heavy, we're like Wapachui. And
That's
so I really don't remember where it came from. And if it's a bad word in other countries, I'm very sorry. It was just a fun word that we started when our Izzy, our 8-year-old, was getting in the car, and I was like, oh, Wapachui. And then it's just a fun word we just say here and there. So it's just fun to say, but I don't really know where it came from. All kind of words you come up with your children.
That's true. That's a lot of made up names for them. Okay. I'll ask you then, Jacob. What is your least favorite word?
Oh man, least favorite word. I think hate would be my least favorite word.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking that or can't for you, either one. I know.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah,
can't.
Yeah.
What turns you on spiritually, emotionally, creatively, Jacob?
You're gonna make me cry.
I don't. Barbara Walters here. Usually I'm the one that starts crying. But
Man.
Yeah.
You'll make me cry.
How living the Word of God is.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, especially Ephesians 3, when Paul is talking about, he's going through all the mysteries of God, and he says, and for this reason, I bow my knees and pray for you to be strengthened in your inner man. And just the heart, the transformation from who he was walking to Damascus to that place. That, I mean, I weep every time I read. It's even think about it.
Because that was a
obviously.
pretty big transformation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, one that you experienced as well.
Yeah.
So then, Stephanie, what turns you off creatively
Mm-hmm.
or spiritually or emotionally?
I would say and especially in this society, when we listen to the enemy and we believe the lies that are spoken to us as Christians. I know there's people out there seeking the real truth. What is truth? Why am I here? What am I doing? What's my purpose? And like you were referencing earlier, like the college campuses, like they're just seeking the truth. And when they're given maybe a small bit or a lie, it's very hard for people to see who they really are. And it is very heart-wrenching when people live in that way and those lies, and they forget that I am the daughter of the God who split the Red Sea. I am the daughter who can call on my Father to hear me and help me, or I'm a son who is trying to follow after the Lord. And it's very hurts my heart when people hear those lies and believe them. And like Jacob was saying, here in the States with trauma, it's veterans are told all the time, you have PTSD, it'll always be that way. And that is not true. So veterans take on that role, and that's why in the veteran community, it's 22 suicides a day from the amount of knowledge that we know. And then it's happening over in Israel because of the trauma. So, and you don't have to live that way. Just because someone said that, that's not your identity. That's not your claim to fame. So that's what we try to get out, is the real truth. So.
Then I'll ask you, totally different. What is your favorite sound?
Rain.
Yeah, we had a lot of it last night.
These past couple of days. It's my favorite.
We've had a bunch of it.
Favorite smell, favorite sound. It's cleansing of the earth. It just makes everything new.
Yeah,
So I love the rain.
Okay, Jacob, what's your least favorite sound?
That would be our youngest daughter, Maddie, who's 3. Her crying.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it tears me up.
Tears you up.
It does.
Okay, what other profession would you like to have tried?
Ooh.
This is gonna sound completely cliche. I have no idea now. Like we were at a leadership thing for the Freedom Fighter Foundation. We were talking about continuing to dream. This is I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
And so I can't think of anything else.
Okay. All right. Something like when you were little, I want to be a nurse or something like that.
Archaeology.
Oh, really? Archaeology.
I love archaeology.
Okay.
The
well,
mummy.
you're going to a place that's pretty rough with that.
Living archaeology.
I'm so excited to find anything and do it in the dirt. The Mummy's one of my favorite shows, all because I feel like, I'm that person. I'm a librarian, seeking out adventure. But it's true. Archaeology is everywhere. It's just piled on top of each other in Israel.
Yeah.
So you can't bump into something without it being historic.
I know. Interesting. What profession do you know you would not want? I don't want that job. No, thanks.
An archaeologist.
Wow.
That's all the cataloging and
Oh, see,
maintaining.
that's so fun.
Yeah, that is the detail and the
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
meticulous
would love it.
attention.
I'll dig it up.
Yeah.
You
That's
find out
it.
what to do with it.
That's funny. That's funny. What about you? What would you not want to do?
Oh, for
Stephanie?
me,
Uh-huh.
a nurse or a doctor, anything that would consist of cutting someone open and
Oh,
everything
yeah.
there. I can put a Jesus Band-Aid on you fine, but anything other than that, I'm all done.
Yeah. Moms do tend to have to do some of those things. One last question: when you arrive at the pearly gates, what do you want to hear God say?
Well done, my good and faithful servant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thankful for.
And here's all the ice cream.
Here's all that.
Here's all the ice cream.
I'm thankful that when I do get to heaven, because of our journey here, me and the Lord will have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
I won't get up there and we won't have just met. I'm thankful for people who do
Right.
seek salvation on their deathbed or right at the very
Oh,
end,
man.
because you spend eternity getting to know him.
That's profound.
I'm thankful that when we get there, he'll know me and I will know him because we've walked out this life together. And I also want my robes to be a little bit on flames because we know our calling is to get as close to Hell's Gates to redirect traffic.
Yeah.
So we know that our family is called pretty close to the fire.
Yeah.
And we understand, we don't take it lightly, and we understand. That's why we put on our armor of God every day, because we do have to fight every day in this place.
Yeah.
And so we know, especially where we're going, when the rapture calls, we'll be coming in, sliding in with flames behind us, but we're not going to heaven alone. Our calling is to bring as many brothers and sisters back into the fold, to know him and to be with him. And it's not to say, look who I brought to you. It's look who we were allowed to help.
Yeah.
Remind you of who you really are. So we'll
So
come
well
in
said. So
flames
well said.
ablazing.
I don't think I've ever heard that put quite like that before. That's profound. So your website again, how folks can get in touch if they want to learn more.
thefew937.com.
The Few, F-E-W.
F-E-W.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And
All
it comes from Matthew 9:37.
Okay. Very good. Jacob,
Yes, ma'am.
Stephanie, thank you. God bless you in your
Thank
your
you.
work
Thank you.
and these coming months.
Yes.
It's going to be an exciting time.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for being with us for Central Texas Life. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Central Texas Life with Ann Harder is part of the Rogue Media family. Be sure to check out our other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate this show 5 stars on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Life with Ann Harder.